right, so.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm really gratified to see everybody here.
Nice.
Great. So many friends, wonderful. So today we're gonna talk about a way of being with each other that involves a paradigm shift in how we listen and how we communicate. Okay. Although there's been a lot of books written about nonviolent communication or compassionate communication or NVC, they're all the same thing. This is considered the manual. Nonviolent Communication or Language of Life by Marshall Rosenberg. I wanted to read you just a few words from a printout that came from the website, the NBC.org website, the group of Smileys films. Most of us are hungry for skills that can improve the quality of our relationships, that deepen our sense of personal empowerment, and that simply help us communicate more effectively. Unfortunately, most of us have been educated from birth to compete, judge, demand, and diagnose. To think and communicate in terms of what is right, wrong, good, and bad about people. At best, the habitual ways we think and speak hinder communication and create frustration and misunderstanding. And still worse, they can cause anger and pain and may lead to violence. Without wanting to, even people with the best of intentions generate needless conflict. Okay, so with that in mind, our intention today in sharing these ideas is to support the co-creation of a greater community here in the Jemez that can fulfill needs for compassion, connection, trust, acceptance, and being heard and understood. Okay, Jane, thank you. The founder of NBC was Marshall Rosenberg. He just died 10 years ago here in New Mexico. He lived here the last 15 or 20 years of his life.
There's a lot of noise from this fan to make sure it gets picked up on Zoom. Could you speak up a little
Louder, okay. I always think I'm so loud.
No.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Marshall was truly a visionary psychologist. I first met him in 1981 when I lived in San Francisco, and he would visit from time to time when he was working there, and he was a good friend of one of my housemates, and so he stayed with us in the city. Later, in 2002, I did a long weekend workshop retreat with him up at Sunrise Springs near Santa Fe. And I can definitely attest to the fact that Marshall was remarkable and also very down to earth, really incredible music. Okay. Next, thanks. As I said, NVC, nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, all the same thing. Neither one of us is a certified NVC trainer, you should know. We're both students of NVC for 20 plus many more years who are working to use it in our lives every day.
Nice communication.
Don't talk to Walter.
Huh?
Talk to us.
Right?
Okay.
Okay, a little, James, can you read the next slide, babe? Thanks. Little history about Marshall Rosenberg. He was born in Ohio. He moved to inner city Detroit in 1943, where he experienced a great deal of violence and racism. In the early 1960s, as a peace activist, he developed an interest in understanding the causes of violence and the means of reducing it. He received his PhD in clinical psychology, developing the practice of NVC, and then teaching it throughout the world. It's now being practiced in over 30 countries. Carried on by many dedicated people who were trained by Marshall. The basic premise of NVC is that as human beings, it is within our nature to enjoy giving and receiving from one another. It's a response to the inquiry, what causes us to disconnect from ourselves and one another, leading to the violent behavior that we experience and see all around us. His conclusion was that our communications plays a vital role in preserving and nurturing connections among us, and it can also destroy them. Okay? Marshall believed there are 4 assumptions that are basic to cultivating and restoring peaceful connections with themselves and others. The first is that all human beings share the same fundamental needs. Second, conflict occurs at the level of strategies we use to meet those needs, not at the level of the needs themselves. All of our actions, this is the third assumption, all of our actions are attempts to meet needs. Everything we do. We only resort to violence when we do not see or know more effective strategies for meeting our needs. NVC provides tools for communicating in ways that promote connection and healing. We ask ourselves, what's alive in me right now? Using honesty, self-compassion, and non-judgment. And then we ask, what's alive in you? Using empathy, deep listening, and respect.
Okay, I'm gonna speak, and I want to recruit somebody who can find the right one there of these. And, okay. Yeah, who's gonna do it? I'm talking first about the NVC process, and well, Susanna is gonna, you'll notice there are 4 steps. Notice observation and feeling. You go to slide 8 and then back. Need and request. So let me jump back. And then I'll explain why there are 2 columns here. First, this is a process for establishing relationships based on honesty and empathy that will eventually fulfill everyone's needs. That's what Marshall Rosenberg. Now, I just want to be clear about honesty and the empathy side of this. Honesty is when I am talking about what I observe, feel, need, and question. The empathy side is when I am working on reflecting back what I understand you, meaning the other person, observe, feel, need, or request. So, let's just look down the honesties. Concrete actions I observe, remember, or imagine that are affecting my well-being. So I say, when I see, when I hear, when I remember, when I imagine, and it's something concrete that, that I'm experiencing. And if it's on the, well, let me go on through this. So next is how I'm feeling in relation to these actions. And then we get down to needs. The fundamental human needs, creating my feelings because of whatever it is that happened, that we discussed. And then requests concrete actions that I would like taking. And we're going to talk about these four categories in more depth after this quick overview that we've done. So, going back to number 7, so it's very similar, but a little different twist on empathy column, which is receiving how you are without blame, judgment, criticism, and reflecting back. I didn't emphasize that on the honesty side, which was expressing how I am without blame, judgment, or criticism. We'll talk about that. That's a really big part of doing this. So anyway, when you're, we'll do a little demonstration to make this more clear, but when you're working on empathy, you're listening to the other person, you're trying to respond in a way that makes them be able to understand that you've got really heard what you're saying, understand it, whether you agree with it or not. So the same, how is the other person feeling in relation to these actions that were described under observation? Then we go to need, right? The fundamental human needs creating the other person's feeling. So what do we hear then? What are we gonna kind of try to draw out of them, not really understand them? And then once again, we want to see that what concrete actions they would like to request. So in any case, why don't we go on to the next?
Do you wanna do our
Oh, yeah, right, we had a little,
role play?
we're gonna do a little example of this. I think people that you must not. So. Here we go. I'm gonna give it a little example. My observation is when I was shopping yesterday and I sent you a text and I did not get a response. Okay, now, notice if I say that with a little more edge of my voice, it's gonna sound judgmental. It's gonna break the matter of not, of not being judgmental. So there's a lot of detail to that, but anyway. So I said, but this, I can do this all in one sentence. So this sentence is going to be the observation, the feeling, and the need, all in one. When I was shopping yesterday, I sent you a text that did not get a response, so I got frustrated. That's the feeling, because I needed more information to get the correct product. That's what the need was in this. So the second sentence is request. So next time I'm out shopping, would you be willing to be looking out for texts or calls from me in case I need information about something?
Okay,
Okay.
so
Who's going to respond with that empathy stuff?
so I hear that when you were shopping and had a question about what you needed to get, you tried texting me and I didn't answer, which frustrated you. And because you really needed to know more before you could buy it. And your request is that I try to be close to my phone or anticipate that you could call when you're doing that kind of shop. Is that right? Am I hearing you right? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. Now, sometimes you might have to have a little more negotiation.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move slide 9 and just dig a little deeper into observations. So, the important key thing, observing without evaluating. What's really the subtlest little thing can make the other person feel like they're being evaluated rather than just stating fact. So separate observation from evaluation. Clearly identify and describe what we are seeing, hearing and experiencing that is affecting our sense of well-being. Often this whole thing is triggered because you have a feeling that something isn't right And, so that's what we're working on here. Observation should be specific to time and context. We're gonna have a couple of examples to help get that. When we combine observation with evaluation, we decrease the likelihood that others will hear our intended message. So let's go to slide 10. And here I've got a little examples, but in general, requests are about what would make life more wonderful for you and for me. That phrase, make life more wonderful, was one that you can watch videos, Marshall, he uses that. I know I've heard it a number of times. So for me, that thought motivates me to try to use NVC for something greater than just problem resolution. To try to reach a better connection, a more wonderful situation. Anyway, requests are the connecting bridge between
James,
us.
we're on examples about observations.
Oh, we skipped the example.
10.
There.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for. Not somehow I made it, but, oh, I'm on the wrong.
you jumped ahead.
I got too much paper.
You're always jumping ahead.
That's not judgmental, that was an observation. Tell us how it makes you feel.
You don't listen to me anyway, so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
You gotta have examples of non-NVC.
We
Yeah,
do.
Right, that's why I was in.
Okay, that's slide 10. Example with judgment, Doug procrastinates. But to try to get that judgment out of there, we just make a simple observation. Doug only studies for exams and make it do it. And then there's another example with the judgment. You seldom do what I want. And the other, they try to get the judgment out of that. The last 3 times I initiated an activity, you said you didn't want to do. So.
Feelings.
That was it. Feelings is Susanna's gonna come back and take over. Did we finish slide 9? I'm gonna read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of that.
So.
Thank you.
Expressing how we're feeling. Based on the facts of the observation, okay, what happened and how does it make us feel? Most of us need to strengthen our feelings vocabulary. I mean, we know happy, sad, mad, and hurt, whatever. But there are huge variations, wonderful, rich ways to describe how we feel. And we have lists up here that we can take if you're interested, an inventory of all the possible feelings that humans have. Both when our needs are met and when our needs are not met. So, expressing our vulnerability through feelings facilitates connection. This is true definitely in personal relationships, but also in the workplace. And the last thing, using words that refer to specific emotions rather than words that are vague or general. You can be sure someone really gets what we're feeling and that we really understand what someone else is. Okay. So, next slide, please. Okay. Yeah, examples again. Feelings not clearly expressed, which are actually thoughts. I feel that you should know this. Whatever I feel is followed by that, it's a thought. I feel like I'm constantly on call. Whatever I feel is followed by a phrase, it's a thought. And I feel ignored, which is a little more subtle, but it implies blame. implies that you're doing something to me. Okay, so more clearly expressed, that would be I'm irritated. And I feel frustrated with myself. Or I feel hurt. Okay,
Wow. Really?
now, these are some of the feelings. It tries to be an exhaustive list, but I'm sure there are more. That we have when our needs are not being satisfied. Now, we'll talk about needs more in a minute, but, these are those feelings. The next slide is feelings when our needs are satisfied. Okay? Next one. And you can, like I said, we have lots of copies of these here. To help build our feelings vocabulary and to increase our self-connection, which is a key part of nonviolent communication. Knowing where we are, how we feel, what we're doing, what's up to us at any time. We check in with ourselves often, those of us who are studying it and using it. We ask ourselves, what feelings alive for me right now? Right now, one word, or two, or maybe three different feeling words. So let me tell you that right now I'm feeling pleased that there's so many people interested in this. Anybody else want to check in with yourself and say how you feeling?
I feel thankful to you.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
I feel interested in what you're saying.
All right, good. So just check in with yourself. All right. The concepts and tools of nonviolent communication are designed to help us think, listen, and speak in new ways that awaken compassion and generosity, both within ourselves and with each other. Like I said, it's really a whole new paradigm. Okay. Marshall has said we often talk to others or at them, not knowing how to engage in a dialogue with them. So, going back to this, I don't think I can say any more. Move on. That's really good. Let's talk about needs, which are pretty interesting. A deep gut level understanding of our universal human needs is central to compassionate communication. And the belief is that really we all share these needs. They're not unique by any means. And so therefore, they're a great way to connect with someone else. Because if I express a need, you can usually identify them. Okay. Now, in case, here's the list of some needs. We have a much longer list up here. Broken down into categories, needs around connection, around physical well-being, around honesty, equity, peace, autonomy, and meaning. Those are the primary categories. Okay, in case some of us have been made to feel guilty for even having needs, please keep in mind that everything that's alive has needs in order to survive. Plants, animals, and human beings. These needs are literally a fact of our life. All human beings share the same fundamental needs. Although the strategies to meet those needs vary widely with our culture, the climate we live in, our socioeconomic group, and our family. There's something else in the to read to you. Let's see. So think about that for a minute. Conflict occurs, as I said before, at the level of strategies. Once we learn to perceive and openly address common universal needs, it becomes a path to connection and makes it much easier to handle conflict. If we can establish our fundamental shared human needs with someone. Right. Interestingly, our world offers sufficient resources for all of our needs to be met. But any apparent scarcity is attributable to either a current systemic limitation, which I think we're all aware of right now, the broader picture of things, the crisis of imagination, or a lack of skills in fostering connection with each other. So it's important to remember that all of our actions are an attempt for conscious and unconscious to meet needs. Our feelings are clues that point to needs being either met or unmet. All humans have an innate capacity for compassion, though not always the knowledge of how to access it, which has a lot to do with how we're raised and with what values. When we're met with compassion and respect for our autonomy, we tend to have more access to our own compassion for ourselves and for each other. Growing our compassion contributes directly to our capacity to meet our needs peacefully. Another basic assumption in NVC is that human beings enjoy giving. We inherently enjoy contributing to each other and making each other's lives more wonderful, as James said, Marshall's all the same. Once we have connected to our own and others' needs, and we can experience our giving as coming from choice. Humans meet needs through interdependent relationships. Nearly all our needs, except those having to do with our connection to ourselves and to nature, are met through our relationships with other people. Many of us eventually come to perceive that when others' needs are not met, some needs of our own also remain unmet. Isn't that the truth? So my aim in identifying and expressing my needs is twofold. First, to understand myself and thereby create a connection between my mind and my heart, which is self-empathy. And two, to understand others and thereby create a connection between my heart and mind and another person's heart, which is empathy. When we're identifying and expressing our needs, we focus on words that describe our shared human experience of universal needs, rather than the strategies to meet those needs. For example, if I'm feeling lonely and disconnected from someone, I can say, I'm needing connection, not I'm needing you to come and visit. That's a strategy, okay? And that's where things can get dicey. Or in trying to understand another person's upset feelings, you can say, are you needing support? And not, do you want me to wash the dishes? Might be true, but best to let them come up with that. Okay, so self-connection is really the key here. It's the most direct path to peace. Believe it or not, our capacity for peace is not dependent on having all our needs met. Even when many needs are unmet, meeting a crucial need we have for self-connection can be sufficient for inner peace. That last one, may I just say, that really was the center of the gospel today, the way Chipaka described it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll go back and see it again.
Want to go back? Okay.
Just that. Mhm.
So while you're looking at that, I just wanted to give a little empathy to Jen. Let them know let them know that, your little slide remark, helped meet my need for humor.
Good.
So anyway, when Susanna. Let's go push it to the request. So this is the fourth of the steps, which I'm gonna talk about a little bit more. This is when I was supposed to be talking about Marshall. Maybe, saying, talking about next life, more wonderful. And has motivated me to try to do more than just problem solve. So anyway, the requests are about what would make life more wonderful for you and for me. They are the connecting bridge between us. The request gives the other person the opportunity to enrich life for both of us. Requests need to be specific, quantifiable, doable in the present moment, and stated in positive action language. So don't be making requests for people that not do something or stop something. Make it positive. Ask for what you do want, not what you don't want. Next. So often we are not conscious of what we are requesting. The clearer we are about what we would like, the more likely it is that we can get it. And I know that to add, you can make a perfectly normal request that you shouted at the other person. It's not gonna sound like, as we said in the example. Very often, the best way to start it is, are you willing? Because it's a request, it's not a demand. So, go to. Okay, in NBC, we make requests rather than demands in order to meet needs for respect and choice. There are two types of requests. Connecting requests, when we do something like this, after we've openly expressed ourselves and maybe feeling vulnerable. You can expect to feel vulnerable in this process. Like, would you be willing, so this is something you might do, would you be willing to tell me what you heard me say? Okay, that'll make the connection and move the conversation on. Or when we can see someone has feelings and needs that haven't been expressed, we might say, would you be willing to tell me what is going on for you right now? Okay. And then action requests. Things like, would you be willing to agree to continue this discussion right after dinner time? Or would you be willing to agree to do the laundry before 5 p.m. tomorrow? Or like we said before, would you be willing to make sure you're looking out for communications while I'm shopping? So 38. It has been said that clear, specific, doable, positive requests are 50% of non-final communication. I don't know about an exact percentage, but that's not the point. The main point is the fact that well-crafted requests is a very important part of effective compassionate communication.
And James, are you
Question,
gonna,
yeah?
are you going to get to the point when the request is not granted? How you deal with that?
Well, then that would be a whole, you'd have to go through the whole process again. You say, you told me you were willing to do such and such, but you did not do it. That's would be an
Well,
observation.
And I'm talking about the initial request, like.
yeah, we probably won't get into that today. It's a little more involved and you use the whole 4-step process.
And
to get there.
Susanna's gonna come up and talk about what's next for anybody who wants to look into it.
So, after this brief introduction, if any of you are interested in delving deeply into nonviolent or compassionate communication, we have a sheet here that you can sign if you're interested.
Okay.
Okay, let's find out. Start down here. Are you telling us
Gotta
about
sell.
what we decided that for?
Yeah.
Which, okay. I will do. Yeah, we are open to forming a new study group, but for your information, we did a similar presentation to this 10.5 years ago at the library. And out of that grew a study group of, I think about 13 people. We studied Marcia's book that was in the first slide. Can we get back to the first one and just show them the cover of the book again? We studied the book for a year. We practiced it, we did a lot with it. And then at the end of that year, we asked who would like to be part of an ongoing practice group. And there were about 10 of us who wanted to meet. And now we're, 10 years later, there's still 7 of us meeting every month. And it's become a real interesting, loving, caring support group of sorts. But we really try to follow our communication principles of listening to each other with deep empathy and sharing ourselves honestly and avoiding judgments. So it's a very gratifying group. Actually, James and I are part of the Moving Out group too. And more here. We're open to starting another one if anybody wants to do that. So I'd like to invite the people here today who are part of our group here. If you feel like sharing anything of how it's affected your life.
I want to mention the resources.
Online.
Okay,
Yeah, we do.
I was trying to go to the end and it went me off the end and put me back at the beginning again. So.
Here, I have a copy of that up here, if you're interested.
Multiple copies, right?
Get more, and I want to call your attention to the last item. There are so many wonderful videos of Marcia Rosenberg teaching NBC workshops around the world. That are really fun to watch, and you definitely get a sense of who he was and how this works. In all kinds of different situations. He worked with people in the Middle East who were in conflict. He worked in an inner city Detroit with gangs who were in clear conflict. He has done a lot of work in cities around the world, but I mean, he's really been on the front lines in some major international stuff as well. I don't know if it's still being used as much, if he's gone in those settings, but it probably is, because there are so many good trainers around the world. So that's what you'd be signing up for. When you have to go in June. I think it's back. Yeah.
Oh, he's not here.
He's right here. She wants you to go back.
What's that?
Slide.
Go back how far?
One page.
Thanks. Yeah, so there would be education using the book. And then we would practice getting and receiving empathy, following these principles, just practice. And honestly expressing how we're feeling and what we do without hiding. And we would probably share some personal situations, which of course gets deeper over time. It's trust is built in the group, but those are the most valuable for actually applying the principles. So
The practice study group would still be once a month.
it would still be once a month. Yeah. Now, if we do a study group, it depends on who's in it. People can determine the day and the time as a group. And we could decide to meet twice a month to do that. We would get through the book a lot faster if we did that. But it's up to the group. Okay, it's kind of a self-regulating group. Yeah. Any other questions about that?
A date for the first study group?
We don't have a date because I want to see if anybody signs up. Then of course the clipboard, is it Niven's?
Where is the
Right.
Okay. We will contact people once we have your contact information. And then we'll meet and decide together what works best for them. Yeah. To study. Yeah, Marilyn.
It probably goes without saying, but I think it really is important to say that at the beginning, there's an agreement for confidentiality, for privacy, for respect for each other. If you see people, in Costco, you don't be say, oh, and by the way, whatever you said the other day, you don't do
Yeah.
that, at least not in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, that's one of.
Not ever. Yeah, we don't share outside.
Yeah.
The group, what's said.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Marilyn.
You're welcome.
Jim.
It strikes me, I was in the group for a while. But has there been any research on how some people have no concept of having a meeting? Especially when they're
Having-
very young children
Right.
and teenagers.
That's what I said about some of us are raised not
Loud.
be feeling even allowed to have needs. I remember it well. And some churches made it very hard for people to say, oh my gosh, I need this from you, or to justify having needs, which are so fundamental to life. So we have to overcome them and really face the fact that that's a reality. And they're better if we acknowledge it and celebrate it as a common thread among us all. Does that answer the?
Sure, and I was wondering, even in education in schools, do they ever, young children, do they talk about their needs?
May it be so.
We wish.
May it be
Yes.
so, yes.
As a counselor with young children in schools, I did, but I don't think in the classrooms they did, right, special. Yeah, that's the only place.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna make a comment.
Yeah.
This has been going on for, is it 10 years? Oh my goodness, right?
10 and a
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Whether, so I've been a part of this group, whether you decide to join the study or practice group, the website has an immense available resources. The book is not a huge tome. It's something that's very accessible, easy to read. It goes chapter by chapter. And it is a valuable source that you could delve into right now. Part of what watching Marshall's videos does is just help you to get the language, because for me, I did not have good access to feelings. And if you haven't been practicing the process, it's really nice to see examples and just even how you word those, because it's the wording that I found very hard to, I have the idea to be nonviolent, but how to put that into a sentence is where I really needed help. The other thing on the resources list, so all of these printouts are extremely valuable just to familiarize yourself with needs and feelings that you might not have ever thought about. And secondly, you can sign up for that newsletter, and they put out the Puddle Dancer Press is where you can get some of the resource materials, or they send out a newsletter that's just one of those really uplifting things to read. And I think they send it out once a month. So, and I'm still in the group, it's going strong. The the study part of it is a really good way to start, and you'll still be as valuable if you decide to do it on your own, and even more valuable in a group with support.
Well said.
Good, thanks. Yeah,
I just wanna know, where is the book available? How do we get it?
you can get it online.
Is there any other place besides these
I'm
bookstores?
sorry.
Is it at bookstores or someplace besides?
It might be in some independent bookstores. And there is a center for nonviolent communication down in Albuquerque.
With the bookstore.
With a
Says,
bookstore, I'm
it's
not
that-
sure if they.
the resource page said it had one, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
the resource list gives information about that and the address of it. But I know you can get it on Amazon, of course. From Huddle Benson Press, we print it. That's the NBC.
Since
Public.
church is offering a space, if there's enough people, the church can order it, just pay one shipping.
Oh,
Or
nice.
somebody who has a shipping free thing,
Sure,
then, you sign up, you just pay for the.
Nice.
yeah.
We
might
could do
even
that
that,
one.
but
If we know.
And it's, if you like Kindle, it's on Kindle and.
I'm personally feeling a need for support for myself, for my wife, for my family, my friends. And I'm wondering if you folks gathered here are willing to consider something beyond the discussion here today, given what's going on in our country and what will be going on the next 3.5 years, to have some kind of support here in Hema Springs. With this group, with others, I really am serious about this.
Okay, they have the visible group, which is my powerful, is active, and Julie is heading that, and Dave and
Dave.
God are all keeping that going, and that's a great place to share those concerns and get support, and believe me, they come up in our NBC practice group too. But that's not our focus. Our focus is on common with each other. So, and I want to say, it looks, when you look at the 4-step process, it looks formulaic. And maybe at first, it helps some people to follow that process. It's not formulaic. We use our own words and language, but we try to adhere to the spirit of non-judgment, non-evaluation, that kind of thing, and certainly good listening. I can't emphasize how important that is. Gary, yes.
Yeah, this is actually for Louise. Louise.
Hi.
You mentioned something about a good place to start was the study, what? Study guide?
We started with the book, and we met once a month, and we went chapter by chapter. So we were in just a study group, and then we would also practice a little, but it's a different formula now. But we started with the book, and we read the book, and we discussed it chapter by chapter. That's how we learned the process and got to really become more conversant in the feelings, needs, and we would find out, that we're going into strategy here. So let's back up, or let's clearly state those needs. Some people would have a very hard time making a request. So, to make sure that the process was like, and what would your request be, instead of getting on the soapbox, which, and how to put that in nonviolent communication language. So, learning not to be on a soapbox, but, to follow it up with the request so that there are results, tangible results that are felt. But we started with reading a chapter a month in the book, started by getting these charts, learning what feelings and needs are and the differences between them.
Well, I have to acknowledge you for, I think you've achieved some level of mastery with it. And you make my life more wonderful. But with your level of mastery for,
Yeah. Yeah,
reflexes, right?
I did, I was very conscious that I was practicing NVC and,
Different.
yeah, and
How's
I,
training ground for her?
yeah. No, I,
He
no,
provided
my
the
training,
attitude.
yeah, should I can say my training ground was other places. It was easy practice with you, Gary,
good.
thank you.
Yeah, really.
Yes.
Some people are really easy.
Really, this question.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to, know what this process would do in the greater societal context if there is justifiable indignation and anger. Because we have to do something active. I cannot feel compassion for certain people. I don't care what the process is. In the greater context, I don't know how this would work because we need more than just study groups. I don't know. I'm asking how this would apply to that.
Well, believe me, when Marshall was alive, there are some videos of him mediating and applying this process between Palestinians and Israelis. In early conflicts, this would be in the 80s and 90s. Earlier, not early, yeah. But and you know, it's all about finding the common basis that you gotta get down to that so people can relate to each other. But in terms of expressing our own feelings of anger, that comes up a lot in our group. And we let it out, you know, I mean, it's real. And it's also a chance for us to look at how we handle, you know, those feelings. What do we do with them? Where do we go with them? What can we request of other people to support us in the face of, you know, systemic failure all around us? Is that what? Is that it?
Kind of, but I mean, what about, and maybe this is just my judgmental feeling, but what about when the basic emotion is anger? And that, and particularly in the domestic situation that we're in, and to me, it seems that the basic emotion that I feel around all of this stuff is anger. And I want to know if that is ever useful as I mean, is that ever?
Fuel. It's a
You know,
fuel.
My feeling about anger is in most cases, the anger feeling is on top of some other deeper feelings and needs that are bringing it on. But if I'm feeling angry, the light that goes on my head is, okay, there's a need that's not being met. And so examining other things like that. You know, examining the feelings and needs that are underlying what's bringing out that anger can help go towards this process.
What I hear you guys saying is that, the fundamental needs that you're talking about, the basic unmet needs, fuel anger sometimes, or fuel elation sometimes. And, you know, it sounds like for me, anger comes usually from terror. Fear.
Yeah,
It's
but that's,
disappointment, discouragement.
but your need for safety is, if you're feeling caring, your need for safety,
That is-
which everybody should understand.
That is not to what's the word? That
Devalue.
is not to devalue his anger.
Right.
No.
I know.
Your anger is valid.
I think
It's not invalid.
responding to
Yeah.
Ellie's
and is a basic response to it is terrorized. Well, it's gonna be terrorizing. It's not, I don't think it's quite at that point yet, but I don't. It seems to me that this process works more in a personal sense than a societal. I want to know if there's any way to apply it to, because it seems to me that, I don't know how to say it, that it means that we are not approving, but we're accepting without. Well, if you are not doing something about it, you are condoning it. That's what I'm trying to say, and I want to know. We have to do something.
If you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. But doing something about it could be using this process by saying that I observe this and my feeling is I'm angry. And then search to say what needs mine are not being met
And be able to-
by this situation. And it's gonna be, what can I do?
The book,
Move
the,
into action.
sorry, the subtitle of the poster was compassion communication, but the book title, if you look at it, is a nonviolent communication. So you say you understand anger doesn't always mean violence, right? So for me, this training seems to equip us to convey anger, express anger without becoming violent. And that will have that has a great social utility.
Okay, you said that he mediated conflict, but it seems to me that we haven't quite got to the conflict stage yet, but it's coming, and I just want to know what,
Yeah, well, it's just.
It gives us a language to be more in touch with ourselves in the midst of this, so we can take action. We can identify ways that we can do something. You know, and there are many ways we can have it, yeah.
Does it address, communication without resolution?
Yes.
But that definitely happens.
For sure.
I don't know,
I.
specifically, because I think Marshall would
You would
tell
not
you
accept.
to go around the circle again.
You would not
and
accept
try
no
it.
resolution.
Yeah, you can keep
No.
working on it, but I'm
Keep
just.
going.
There will be,
Go for
but
days.
in a bigger picture,
Yeah.
there might be no resolution that's immediately happening.
Not as you going, right?
You know,
It's
so maybe eventually.
long term. Yeah.
Sheila?
Well, you said, you mentioned Julie is reading the Indivisible Hangus book.
Yeah.
You know what that is? I mean,
and
people know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone knows, okay, because that could be, I guess, one way to deal with the general greater situation going on in our country.
Yeah,
right
it
now.
gives us a
And
outlet.
to actually do some.
And that
Yeah.
feels empowering. I
Yeah.
feel empowered when I take little steps.
Right.
Yes.
And I can go on with my day because I feel like
Done
I've done at
something,
least
done
something.
something.
Yes.
It's not just frustrating.
Right.
You've done
Oh, no,
something, you can
right.
write small.
And this language then helps us communicate with our elected officials.
Yeah,
As well as all of the people we run into in our lives.
Or who don't agree with
Who
you.
might
about
not
it.
agree with us.
Right, yeah.
And remember, there's always someone who is having an interpersonal relationship with someone else making decisions about our lives. We have to generate the change in communication. Compassion does not mean not holding someone accountable. It's how you hold them accountable. It's understanding, maybe they have some constraints, or maybe they're just a kook. And you have to find another way, but it's compassion really means feeling with. And if you can learn to realize that your needs are gonna be met if that person's needs are met in a literal transactional relationship, the way the current occupant of the White House does transactions is extremely old fashioned. It's very brutal. transactions should always end with both parties enriched, if there are two. And maybe a little loss on both parts, like if both people are a little unhappy, you've had a good resolution. If somebody is ecstatic, right, if someone's ecstatic. And the other person is not, you have not had a good resolution. That's not a good outcome.
Right.
So it's
We go
building that.
that involves some giving on both sides.
May I, see if you're willing to consider the fact that the shit is going down as we speak right now in Chicago, as it was in LA, as it will be in Baltimore, and if it comes to Albuquerque, which it well may, because our governor said the National Guard needs to be in Albuquerque. And if it really gets heated, it is here in New Mexico. So again, I feel insecure, and I think that for me is the source of my anger. And I'm feeling insecure for myself, my wife, my friends, my kids in Albuquerque. Man, I'm ready to pour on some anger and get involved and get active in confronting the fascism that's going on.
And that goes to interaction with everybody.
I understand what you're saying, but not what he was saying, but what you were saying.
Yeah,
You said this is, transactional, but it doesn't seem to me that there's any chance of me having a transaction with the person or the group or the whatever that I'm angry with. So isn't transaction a two-way street? Don't you have to have somebody to have a transaction?
or a
with?
representative. So a representative, we can't each go to the dialogues between Israel and Palestine. But we certainly can let our representatives who do go know what we think the resolution ought to be. And when you do, Jemez area indivisible, to me, this is my anchor. If we don't do enough, I mean, I don't do enough, let me say that, because we're all time constrained. But it really has given me focus on things that I can do and feel that we're making a difference.
Yeah.
I've learned how to look for the things to support that are making a difference. If nothing more than to send a note to someone doing something that I support what you're doing emotionally, even if I can't send you money. I'm gonna talk about what you're doing, and I'm gonna get other people to send you money.
This whole process has me thinking, if I'm gonna communicate with representatives, that expressing our feelings and our needs can be a very powerful part of it. I know I was talking to Heinrich's office a few weeks ago. They were saying they want stories about real life things going on. So anyway, I'm pleased that a number of people have.
Thank you, James,
Yes.
for that.
When,
There are a couple things that something you stop.
when you send the email out, could it be part of it? Asking people if they are ready to make the purchase and want the church to purchase
Sure, the book.
Okay.
the book.
Yeah, we can find
That
out.
would be
nice.
Yeah, you don't have to do it like right now, but if you put it there, then you can,
You'll get the same.
Yep.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
so we can one shipment and,
Great.
maybe it can arrive to the Cougars.
Okay.
Church can't receive a mailing.
Let me get the books.
All right.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but would you be willing to, let me take some people's address if they want to be on this email list? It's really only once or twice a year.
I guess I maybe want to go over to Julie and.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that? You try to keep it positive.
Yes. Yeah.
Why don't you let?
Find
Julie
a
know?
piece of paper, do a sign up for the Jemez Invincible.
I
Yeah.
just got a little.
Yes, of course.
Okay.